World War I really kind of changed the face of the world. This was the Great War. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And we know that World War II comes afterwards, so it obviously was not the war to end all wars. Lasted from 1914 to 1918. One of the most important things that we need to remember about World War I is what were the causes. And there's a little acronym to help you remember that. They were the main causes of World War I. So we had militarism, which is the building up of your military, where countries started doing the draft and bringing soldiers into the army, also building up all of their weapons. The most important of these causes was the alliance system. Countries entered into alliances because they wanted to protect themselves and were afraid of attacks by other countries. The Triple Alliance was Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. And when the war starts, the alliance system is what brings so many countries into the war. Now, Italy does not honor its alliance once this war starts, but the other sides do. Britain, France, and Russia are in the Triple Entente together. Imperialism is the third cause of the war. Most of the countries in the world had been taken over. There was very little places of colonial expansion left. Germany especially wants more, and so each country is trying to compete for a little bigger piece of the pie. Nationalism is the last cause of the war. If you remember that nationalism, there's a couple of definitions. We have one, extreme pride in our country, but yet also it is that belief that people of a common culture and language should be together. And that's really the one we're talking about here, this idea that people of a common culture and a common language should be together. And particularly if you look at this area here, down in the Balkan region here, notice all these different flags. Those stand for all kinds of different nationalities. And so each of those countries kind of wanted to be their own. But this region was controlled by Austria-Hungary. And so that's where we call this the Balkan powder keg, because that area was ready to kind of explode. So that's really when we start to think about what actually started the war. Both sides are building up to war, but there has to be an event to actually start the war. And the event that actually started the war was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He was visiting Serbia, and Bosnian nationalists who wanted to be independent came into Serbia and they assassinated him. And as a result of this, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia is friends with Serbia because they're both Slavic people. Russia then declares war on Serbia. Germany then declares war on Russia. France then declares war on Germany, and so on. All of Europe is in a war suddenly. Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria will end up joining with Austria-Hungary and Germany. And as you can see, here are the sides of the war. We have the Central Powers, which would be the German Empire, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. And then we have the Allied Powers of Great Britain, France, and Russia. Now, Russia will end up leaving the war in 1917 when they have a civil war and the Russian Revolution in their country. And Russia will become a communist state led by Vladimir Lenin. As Russia is exiting the war, the United States will join the war. The United States will join the war in 1917 after the sinking of the Lusitania and because of the Zimmerman telegram, which was a telegram sent from Germany to Mexico, encouraging Mexico to attack the United States. What does the fighting look like in the war? Well, this is definitely trench warfare, what we're seeing in this war. And so you can see here these dug-in trenches. And the reason that trenches happen and trench warfare happens is because both sides are very evenly matched. And the problem with this is because both sides are so evenly matched, you have a massive casualty and nobody's really gaining anything. It was almost impossible to cross over because of specifically the machine gun. And there are several new weapons in World War I. The machine gun is one of the biggest ones. There's also U-boats, chemical gas, also airplanes, which we know didn't make as much of a difference in World War I, as well as flamethrowers, and just increases in the telephone and technology that help them to communicate a little bit better. Ultimately, the war ends in a stalemate. On November 11th, on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, they signed an armistice, which means that you cease fire. So the Treaty of Versailles happened. Germany really doesn't get a say at all. And so the Allies are the ones who make all the decisions. President Wilson from the United States, he brings his 14 points. The only part of that they accept is the League of Nations. The League of Nations is founded to prevent future wars. And as we know, they will fail at their job because World War II does happen. They do agree in this treaty some very harsh punishments on Germany. And those harsh punishments are one of the causes of World War II. They asked Germany is going to lose some of their land. Germany will also lose their army. They can only have basically just a police force. Germany will be faced to pay reparations. And the thing that makes the Germany the most upset is they are forced to sign the war guilt clause. And the Treaty of Versailles will, in essence, set up a scenario where Germany is going to want revenge for what happens to them at the end of World War II. And we're going to see that the weakened economy and different circumstances are going to open up Germany and Italy for fascist dictators who will come in and will lead to World War II.